Brodes Media.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome on into Sports Talk with Brodes. I gotta be honest, this is my third attempt recording this podcast. Right now, it's Tuesday night. Monday night, I recorded this, and when I ended the show, the file corrupted. So I was extremely devastated, and I thought, well, Daryl Morey speaks Tuesday morning at 11 a.m. anyway, so what I'll do is I'll just wait for Daryl Morey to speak, and I'll try again. Not the worst thing in the world, even though I definitely was crushed. But, okay, whatever. You move on, things happen, it's an uncontrollable, and there's no way to fix the file. We'll be okay. So after Daryl Morey spoke, here I was sitting in this same exact spot, and I'm 38 minutes in. What happens? My fucking power goes out. So the power goes out in my house. There wasn't even that big of a storm. I think that there was something going around town where there was an accident nearby, and then all the houses on my street did not have power, and I couldn't believe it. I saw the lights flicker. There was about a half a second of my brain recognizing that maybe I could save this damn bad boy. And as my hand went for the mouse to try and stop it so it could at least save before the damage was done, I lost it. So this is attempt 3. And if it happens again now during this recording, it's not meant to be. It's just not meant to be. So that's where we begin today. And we're going to talk more about Ben Simmons, Doc Rivers, where this team is. And we'll start with Ben Simmons, right? Because now that time has passed and people have digested this a little bit more, you're already starting to feel some of the fan base get sucked into this whole narrative that Ben Simmons can change, that you could work with Ben Simmons. The answer is no, you can't. The answer is he needs to go. Now, I get that there's problems here, and it's not so simple. There's no way in hell general managers are chomping at the bits to go grab a player who was that piss poor in the postseason. That's inevitable. You can't sell Ben Simmons for pennies on the dollar. I get it. You can't just go get garbage and go get slop, but you also can't hold Ben Simmons to the standard of what he once was able to get you, which was James Harden, Bradley Beal, a Damian Lillard. There's no way that Ben Simmons holds that type of power anymore. So where is he? Can you get cents on, not pennies on the dollars, but can you get quarters on the dollars? Could you get half dollars on the dollar? And if that's the case, you might have to go in that direction. Daryl Morey didn't give you much. If you were looking to hear from him and looking to see him say that he was going to move on from Ben Simmons or he was going to keep Ben Simmons, well, then you're just outrageous and your mind is absolutely nuts. You were never going to get an answer like that. What he did say was, I don't want to overreact, but I also don't want to underreact. And there's some truth to that when it comes to Ben, and I think that fits perfectly with what I'm trying to say with Ben. You might have lost your chance to snag that elite, insane superstar with what Ben Simmons can possibly become with the, well, maybe we can get him to grow in our city, and maybe you can get a James Harden. I don't think that lives anymore because of how flawed he is and how ugly that playoff performance really was. You might now be in the territory, in the category of a CJ McCollum. You might be in that type of tier now with Ben, and if that's the case, you might have to live and die with that. Here's what I'm not okay with. Living with Ben Simmons anymore. Here's reality of the situation. You can practice all you want in an empty gym and all you want taking free throws and changing what hand you use. It doesn't matter because Ben Simmons right now today can crush a shit ton of free throws with nobody in the gym. He can make a fuck ton of threes in a row when nobody's in the gym. It's when the lights are on. It's when the pressure is there. And there's so much angst right now with this fan base and with this city where there's so much pressure involved unless he goes out there in the first preseason game or in the first regular season game and shoots 18 times and he's shooting outside of the paint and he's actually taking shots. There's no way in hell this is going to work. And oh, by the way, that ain't happening. There's a narrative out there that all Ben needs to do is really just focus on his free throws. No, that is a lie. That is all bullshit. Him becoming a good free throw shooter, which, by the way, isn't going to happen, is not enough of a change. Here's why. In the playoffs, transition basketball is so damn limited. And then when you talk about fourth quarter transition basketball, it's even worse. Ben Simmons is really only good in transition basketball. So then we get back to playing 4-on-5, Ben Simmons doing nothing but sitting in the dunker spot. This is if he only improves his free throw shooting and he still doesn't become a player with a legitimate jump shot, which he will never be. So this is all coming back to it will not work. Ben Simmons will not work here, and he won't work anywhere. Ben Simmons is a regular season basketball player. He works with that fast pace, up and down, get out in transition, find open shooters. That's what he does well. That's not playoff basketball. I listened to Derek Bonner, who covers the Sixers for The Athletic, and he was talking about how he was doing some research and talking to some individuals around the league, and there's a lot of them out there that just think he's a guy that will succeed in the regular season and will never have those big moments because he just doesn't have it in him. He doesn't want that big moment. He doesn't want to make that big play. He's to a fault trying to get his teammates going. And when you think about Joel and Ben, right, the narrative forever was they won't work together. It's not they don't work together. It's Ben Simmons doesn't work. Ben Simmons, like if you're trying to build a championship caliber squad, right, and Ben Simmons is your guy, and let's say Joel Embiid's not there, so you have a point guard in Ben Simmons, and you want to have him work with a bunch of spacing and a bunch of three-point shooting. You're telling me, and when it comes down to half-court sets, you think that's going to fly in the postseason where Ben Simmons now has to try and, create space and get his teammates wide open looks? I mean, it's never going to be beneficial. It's never going to be something that will work when you talk about going toe-to-toe with Kevin Durant in the postseason when you need to go back and forth action, possession by possession, threes for threes. Twos for twos, tough shots for tough shots. It just doesn't work. Are you going to rely on all your role players? You need to rely on your star. You have to rely on your big, important player. That wouldn't be a thing with Ben Simmons out there as your number one floor general. This nonsense that Ben is going to change. Why? Why all of a sudden? Because he's going to change his hand? You think changing what hand he shoots with is now all of a sudden going to be the difference in him next season? He's going to flip the switch and become a shooter now because he's going to change what hand he shoots with? That's a process. That's a journey. And by the way, you don't start that journey at 24 or 25 years old. You do that when he's like 14, 13, 12. You do that when he's like 6. Now we're talking about doing that, and we need that to fit the time frame of where Joel Embiid is right now, playing at an MVP caliber pace, and we know that the body's not going to last as long as we probably want it to be. So what are we doing with this Ben Simmons garbage that now we're already convincing ourselves that this is going to be effective? We just have to give him time. I'm watching so many individuals out there convince them that you need him on the defensive floor. He does so well in the defense. Who gives a fuck? He makes you play 4-on-5. We have done this so many years. The same exact problem that screwed you over against the Boston Celtics so many years ago with Brett Brown and an early Joel and an early Ben is the same exact issue that's forcing you to fall to a team that you should have waxed their asses in the Atlanta Hawks. The same exact problems, And if you think that there's too much blame going on for Ben and there's so many other issues like Joel's turnovers and Tobias's inefficiency at times and Doc Rivers, while those all are true and those are all issues with this basketball team, I believe they change when the point guard changes because the primary ball handler needs to be a threat. The primary ball handler needs to be an option, and he can't just stand there and do absolutely nothing on the offensive side. And I cannot believe it's been 2 days, and we're already convinced. There's a lot of people convinced that he's going to change. This was rock bottom. How is this different from any other year? He's costed the Sixers in many moments for not doing this. And now all of a sudden he's just going to change. It doesn't work that way. He doesn't have the touch. He doesn't have the scorer's mentality. Instincts are very big in sports. Sometimes when your brain shuts off when it comes to thinking, your instincts take over. When you're on the floor, the game comes to these players naturally, and you do what your body is known to do. Your game just takes over, and you play the game the way you know how to play the game. Ben Simmons only knows how to play the game this way, and I don't think he's fully aware, and this wasn't even a big enough moment for him to recognize how brutally disturbing this is, because D. Lynam is asking him questions after the game, and he's going along the lines of, I'm not going to let you say things about me like that. I am who I am. It is what it is, and now he's pulling out of playing for the Australia team, and to me, it's like those are moments for you to get better. Those are in-game moments for you to shoot the basketball, shoot the rock, and try and work on your craft. And now he's not. Now he's going to work on some skill stuff here and there. I don't know. But here's what I do know. You know, the Stephen A. Smith thing with, he said he's hearing from his sources he's babied, and, you know, the way that he's treated, he doesn't have that work ethic, and he's just babied by his family and his surroundings. There's truth to that. And then Doc Rivers is doing the same thing with him. And I was very clear when Brett Brown was here that no one can make an NBA player shoot. Ben Simmons is the problem. It's Ben. It's not the coach. It's Ben. So I will keep the same energy towards Doc. But I do think that Doc took it to an extreme that Brett Brown never took it. It was almost as if Doc told Ben, don't listen to those idiots. Don't listen to those morons. Don't listen to those media members. They don't know what they're talking about. Do whatever you want to do. Be Ben Simmons, because Ben Simmons is good enough. And he was flat out wrong. While Brett Brown, at least at some point, now, he was soft on Ben originally, and then once he shot a three-pointer and made it and all, it was like, I need to see more. I want to see one a game. I want to see more jump shots. There was a moment where Brett Brown cracked a bit and was like, Ben, I need you to do more, and Ben never responded and never answered because Ben's a fraud in that area. But Doc is just taking it to this new level of disturbing, and I think that there's a correlation with how brutal it's been because Doc Rivers essentially has allowed it to get to this point by not being hard on him whatsoever and saying, do whatever you want to do out there. And that's just not how things are going to go well for Ben Simmons, as we saw. You know, it's not ironic that every year the numbers are going just clearly in the wrong direction. And, you know, he started out, because someone called into Sports Talk Radio over the last couple of days, and they said, well, when you watched him at LSU, why would you ever imagine in a million years that he would become a player for you that would score? So if we go to Ben Simmons, LSU stats, right? Ben Simmons in college, he averaged at LSU in 33 games, 19 points per game, 11 rebounds. Now, he only averaged 5 assists, which, you know, he does move the rock a little bit more than that, but it's like, yo, dude, for the individual who called in that moment. He averaged 19 points per game. He's giving you 4. He's giving you 6. He's giving you 5. He's giving you shots where, I can't believe I'm calling this a shot, but when Furkan Korkmaz tries to throw up a floater, which was so horrendously off, that Ben Simmons comes out of nowhere and does a reverse dunk, that's classifying him as scoring a point and taking a shot when that's very fraudulent in its own way. But 19's like 20 points a game! 20 points a game in college, and now we're dipping to in the postseason 4, 5, 6 points. That's what we, that's why we expect him to be better than that. because there was a time in his career where he could actually do that. He's not even looking at the basket. And I do feel bad for him from a human standpoint that it has reached this point, and it's gotten so much where when he's underneath the basket, you could hear the fan base pretty much go nuts and bananas in awe of, did that moment really just happen, of him passing to Matisse when there's a 6-foot guard and Trae Young on him? He was afraid of that moment while I'm watching Herter take advantage of size. It's basketball 101. Herter abusing Korkmaz and Seth Curry all night. It's literally basketball 101. I have an advantage. I can absolutely annihilate the opponent in front of me. Ben Simmons absolutely can annihilate Trae Young a half an inch from the basket, and he passed it to the second worst offensive option on your basketball team, Matisse Thybulle, which is just one of the most embarrassing things I've ever seen, a defining moment for the low of the low. Whew. Here's where I'm going to have the issue. Ben comes back, and I think that Daryl Morey's got a lot of work to do. It's not going to be easy. I think if he can make a splash, he'll make a splash. I don't think they're just going to give him away for absolutely nothing, though, at the same time. And I wonder how much Doc has in this say, which he shouldn't have any because he's a joke. Okay, I say this with basketball talk here. Okay, so what I mean by that is I'm talking about winning and losing, not actually attacking character or talking about him as an individual off the basketball floor. I'm talking about winning and losing. Doc Rivers is a loser. Doc Rivers is a loser coach. Don't talk to me about when he had Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, Rajon Rondo, and one of the most Hall of Fame-led team I've ever seen in my damn life. He's a loser, and there's a reason why his resume is his resume. Game 1, he allowed the door to be open. He gave the Atlanta Hawks life thinking they could come on the road and win a basketball game. They felt confident. They felt smooth because he made the disastrous decision to put in Danny Green on Trae Young instead of the treasure that we're told about Ben Simmons. All you do is rave and rant about how amazing Ben Simmons' defense is, and you don't even utilize him on the other team's best opponent. You pissed game 1 away. Game 4, joke on you, Doc. Game 5, holy shit, talk about embarrassing. It should have never been 7. And Doc, look, I'm consistent on this. I don't put as much pressure on head coaches as others do in the NBA. They get too much praise when teams win. They get too much hate when teams lose. For what an NBA coach does have in terms of impact on a team, if you're looking at a pie chart, and let's say it's about 15% or so, 15 to 20 in that range, for that 15 to 20 that Doc does have his fingerprints on, he was a disaster, and he was by far worse than anything Brett Brown done. You might have not loved Brett Brown, and towards the end, it was very right to move on from him. When I watched Brett Brown coach in that Nick Nurse series against the Toronto Raptors, he coached his ass off. Brett Brown coached hard as fuck, but he just ran out of moves. When you talk about chess pieces and chess moves, he did a lot with Joel Embiid. He did a lot with utilizing J.J. Redick. He tried different defensive matchups. And by the way, he was playing 4-on-5 then with Ben Simmons as well, which I think played a big role in the results of Jimmy Butler trying to play isolation ball, where the Toronto Raptors basically just didn't regard one player on the floor, which changes a lot. But once Nick Nurse went to the double big man and Serge Ibaka and Marc Gasol, you didn't have any more counter moves, and you basically ran out because you didn't have any more counter moves. You tried everything you possibly could, and the Sixers ended up failing, but Brett Brown coached hard and went toe-to-toe. The coaching was a wash. It ended up coming down to the better talent on the floor. The other 85 to 70, or the 85 to 80% that I'm talking about with that pie chart, that's why the Sixers came up small. And with Doc, I mean, he was just one of the worst coaches I've ever seen in playoff basketball. And I think it just defines all the storylines, all the blown leads, all the issues with the Clippers and with all the other teams that he coached in terms of moving on from him, this and that. They're not going to. Why? Because there's money tied to him. When they got rid of Brett Brown, there was money tied to him. They went out and signed Doc Rivers, but, you know, but another thing that frustrates me is, Brett Brown's a problem. Doc Rivers is a problem. Whoever's next in line, he's a problem. Then the next guy, he's a problem. It's over and over and over and over again with all these people that put so much emphasis on the head coach that every single damn head coach is a problem. At some point it's like, hey, we got to start, objectively kind of looking at things here and say, well, it's always the coach, always every coach. But with that said, Doc Rivers, it's not just about these 7 games and this 2 playoff series. He's got a long enough window and a long enough resume to look back on to prove to you how much he is one of the worst coaches I've ever seen in playoff basketball. It's game 7. Yet we're throwing 10 guys out there. Dwight Howard should have never played. I was on the Fanatics Sunday before the game happened, 4 to 6 p.m. I had a bunch of questions for Doc Rivers. I said, Doc has a lot of buttons to push. Now, I did preface it by saying, if I'm asking the head coach to push 9,000 buttons, there's a problem in its own right there. But who's going to start? Korkmaz? Wrong answer. What are you going to do when Ben Simmons struggles? You're going to keep him out there? I thought he did everything he could with the Ben Simmons debacle. I'll say that. Why would Dwight Howard play? He shouldn't. Well, Dwight Howard's running over Trae Young, and he's picking up fouls, and he looks to be like a useless player out there. We knew that how many games ago? We knew that at what game that Dwight Howard couldn't play in this series, that he just continued to get thrown out there. And there were other options. You could put Ben at the small ball. You can try other things. You didn't have to force Dwight out there, but he did. Shake Milton in the 4th quarter where he didn't play any. I mean, it is incredible. While the Brooklyn Nets have Kevin Durant playing 50+, while Giannis is playing 50+, Middleton's playing so much. All these starters, you play your starters. You live and die with your highest paid players and your top players. Now, someone like George Hill has to play 20 minutes and suck because, well, Ben Simmons is such an issue that you had to go in another area. There are things that force Doc Rivers to make certain personnel decisions, but not all 10. There was no reason to go all 10. After the game, I said 8. It's probably more realistically 7. So anyway, moral of the story here with Doc Rivers is, what an embarrassment as a coach. And getting back to Ben to kind of tie it all together before we take some anytime hotline calls here, Ben Simmons, it is a no-brainer to get him out of here. Imagine him, first game, he comes out, he goes 0 for 4, 0 for 5 from the field, taking all these jump shots or taking these shots. What's going to happen? It's too far gone. At this point, there's too much angst. There's too much waiting. It's been 5 years, and now all of a sudden I'm supposed to expect him. And it doesn't matter what he puts out there. It doesn't matter videos. It doesn't matter about anything. There was a video surfacing from 2019 of Kobe talking about how much he needs a jump shot because he's going to look back on his career afterwards and pretty much say, what if? What if he doesn't get that jump shot? This is Kobe Bryant. And think about how much more that message impacts now and hits now. Anytime I hear Kobe speaking now, it hit then, and now it even goes to another far level. And if that's not going to get to Ben Simmons, nothing is. Nothing is. No playoff woes, no nothing, because it doesn't fully register in his brain how bad it is. He might know that it's uncomfortable and there's a lot of talking heads going on, but I don't think it really resonates with him how disturbing his efforts were. And because he goes, I defended. I did my job on Trae Young. I got my teammates open looks. Like, that's what he thinks. That's how he thinks is, I did my job. I defended. My job's not offense. Well, that's the problem. You don't look at offense as a job, which costed your franchise again for another year. So, until that starts sitting in his brain, which it never will, I don't want anything to do with Ben Simmons. You have to move on from Ben. You also have to use DraftKings Sportsbook. It's not only my favorite sportsbook, but also America's top-rated sportsbook. I love using DraftKings Sportsbook. It's easy to navigate, has plenty of instructions for new bettors, and limitless ways to get in on all the action. My friends and family have been loving DraftKings Sportsbook, and I know you will too. Listen to this great offer. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code Brodes when you sign up to turn $1 into $100 in free credits. Bet on any basketball team of your choice to win their next game, and if they do, you will claim $100 in free credits. That's promo code Brodes for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older, Pennsylvania only, new customers only. Wager paid out in site credits. Restrictions apply. In partnership with Meadows Racetrack and Casino. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, why don't we run on over to the Anytime Hotline and hear what you have to say about where this team is right now.
Yo, what's up, bros? 7-6 for life. Win or lose, 7-6 is for life. Unfortunately, we're on the losing end this time, but Bros, go ahead and call me a homer. Go ahead and call me a homer. But my position on trading Ben Simmons is tremendously softening. I'm to the point now to where I say bring him back. And before you call me a doofus, bro, hear me out. Hear me out. Please hear me out before you call me a doofus. He has publicly admitted that he wants to be in Philadelphia. He's publicly admitted that he loves our organization, he loves our fans, and he wants to be a 76er. If he is willing to accept and take the abuse he's getting, not only in the Philly media, but the national media, and he's willing to come back and invest fully into the 76ers, I say bring him back, because overall he's been a really good to great player for us. He had a bad 4 games. Overall, Ben has been a great player for us. I know the playoff woes continue, and he needs to work on that. If he's willing to put in and work, I say bring him back. One more thing, bro. Markelle Fultz. Markelle Fultz. Oh, yeah. We were patient, understanding, supporting. We did everything we could for Markelle, and Markelle turned his back on us. He went public and said he wanted out. I think if we could go as far as we went for Markelle, I think we kind of, I don't want to use the word owe it to Ben, but I think we could give Ben another season.
We gave Ben enough time. I mean, we're talking how many seasons now, Ben Simmons? We have given him plenty of time. And you say if he's willing to put in the work, what is going to change? This is Ben Simmons. There's nothing more to change out of the guy. He isn't going to shoot. He's not going to be a better free throw shooter. He's not going to be good in those areas. That's not who he is. He said it himself. I am who I am. Now, in regards to him talking about wanting to be here, this and that, what's he going to say? I don't want to be here. I hate Philadelphia. I hate this fan base. I can't stand this city. He's not going to say that. He's giving you player speak. I bet you he doesn't mean what he says. He probably thinks, go fuck yourself, jerk-offs. You guys are all morons. I'm a great basketball player. You know nothing about the sport. That's basically what he's saying. You didn't play at a high level. Yada, yada, yada. I mean, that's basically what he's thinking, but he's giving you that player speak. I did see a couple tweets at me about how this is all sabotage. He wants out of here so badly that he wanted to lose on purpose, and he wanted to play so bad so that he can find his way to L.A. and play with LeBron and this and that. I don't think he's that dumb. Now, I did say he's unaware of how bad this really was. So, you know, my point is, would you play this pathetic basketball just to get out of town? There's other ways to do that. It's the NBA. You could just demand out of town. I don't want to be here. It's as simple as that. I don't want to be here. Playing this poorly, that only hurts teams like the Lakers and things of that nature. You need to play well, and then it's a little bit different. Then teams will want to go out and grab you, want to go out and snag you. It's not like the Lakers go, ooh, you know what? Ben Simmons is sucking on purpose, so we can trade for him, add him to LeBron James, and then we can have this masterful team with Ben being a hell of a defender. I mean, it's just not that way. It's not how it works. So, you know, it only makes it harder when you play this badly and when you play this miserably, because the Sixers are not just going to take nothing for you, and it's not going to be that way. When stars force their way out of town when they play well, it's different. Now, it's a lot different, too, with the player of caliber of James Harden compared to Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons is not proven. Now, James Harden hasn't won a championship, but you know what you're getting out of James Harden. You have no idea what you ever expect out of Ben. And you can look at whatever happens whenever he moves on, and I pray to God he moves on, because I'll throw up if I have to watch him for another season. He'll have numbers in regular season. It's just so irrelevant. Regular season basketball for Ben Simmons is so irrelevant, because the question's always going to be, what does it look like in half-court sets when it matters in the fourth quarter of a playoff game? Can he even be on the floor? So it doesn't matter about 82 regular season games and whatever happens anymore. That's so far low on the list. You're so far past that with this kid. So whatever happens, wherever he goes next, if it happens here, it's irrelevant. And you should never, well, he's back! He's back! No, he's not. Because he'll shrink. Because playing aggressive in transition in game 72 of a regular season means fucking zero. That's what it means. Fucking zero.
Let me say that I'm among the 90% who want Ben Simmons gone, but I want to focus today on Doc Rivers. I thought we were getting an upgrade over Brett Brown when we hired this guy. Granted, he had a great regular season, but he did his usual choke job in the playoffs. His rotations were terrible. I say fire his ass and move Sam Cassell up to the position of head coach. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right, thank you for making the phone call. Yeah, Sam Cassell, look, they're not going to fire Doc Rivers, but I'll go back to what I was saying a little bit earlier. If Sam Cassell came in and the Sixers failed again, you know what it is? Oh, man, Sam Cassell, he's not a great coach. You got to move on from Sam Cassell. At what point is it, all right, we got to stop blaming every single damn coach that comes into town and there's bigger issues? Now, with that said, we'll go back to Doc Rivers' full length of time in the NBA, and there's a proven product of being a loser more than a winner, so that's a lot different. But, yeah, I mean, there is an element to that for sure when it comes to the coaching change and the carousel that we're discussing here when it comes to all these coaches just blowing. Now, when it comes to I wanted to get to, the path to the Eastern Conference Finals. You blew a big opportunity because you want to talk yourself into saying that the Hawks are a good team. By all means, you're entitled to that. They're not. They're not. They're not an Eastern Conference Finals team. That's for damn sure. And quite frankly, they're not better than the Sixers. The Sixers just pissed this one away. So, with that said, I don't know if you're ever going to get into this chance again where you play a brutal Washington Wizards team in round one, followed by an Atlanta Hawks team that's missing DeAndre Hunter, Cam Reddish, and some other, situations all playing around where they fired their head coach midseason and this and that, and you're still losing, which is just so brutal. Good luck. Good luck finding a way. You're probably going to find yourself in a situation like in years past where you have to see a good Boston team early, where you have to see something similar to the Brooklyn Nets that they just battled through, where you have to see a Milwaukee Bucks team in the second round. That's more like it, more so than anything that you see like this season. So, you wasted an opportunity, that's for damn sure, and it stinks, and it should sting. It doesn't even feel right, sitting here today saying the Sixers did not get to the Eastern Conference Finals. Game 5 broke us. That's true. That's very true, and I think that's why it's hard to fathom, but it's also not because of Game 5. Championship caliber teams don't lose Game 5. They just don't. So when that happened, it ripped our heart into a billion pieces where we were still trying to put those pieces together after Game 6, but it was still broken. It was still so damaged that Game 7 basically already had that wound so involved that, it took us to a new level. It really did.
Brodes, I've been following this team for way too long. We deserve better, man. Oh, my God. This is brutal. I feel so bad for Joel Embiid. Granted, he had a lot of turnovers the last 2 games, but I feel so bad for him. He's giving it his all, and we've done nothing. He's out there risking his life. He's risking even further injury. And you know what we did? We gave him max contracts for Ben Simmons and Tobias Harris and let Jimmy Butler walk. How's that looking? And look, Tobias did have a good year overall. And much improved. But, and I don't even want to hear anything about his 24 points because didn't he shot I don't even know how many times he shot, but it was close to 24. I can tell you that. It was bad. We got to trade Ben Simmons. He's such a liability still. He won't fucking shoot.
The biggest liability I've ever seen in the history of the NBA. That's how disturbing Ben Simmons has really gotten to this point, and I cannot run it back. It would be an absolute joke to run it back, and you'd be doing this fan base a disservice if you did that. Now, Daryl Morey is a very smart guy. He's not afraid to pull the trigger and make big moves. I also don't think he's just going to ship him away for absolutely nothing either. And, look, the people say, no one's going to want that contract. Al Horford's contract was moved twice. Josh Richardson was moved for Seth Curry. There's bad GMs out there, and there's a bunch of bad contracts out there as well that maybe, I heard this hypothetical today about with the draft lottery being in place, would you take on John Wall's disgustingly horrendous contract, but you get maybe a high draft pick where you can get Suggs from Gonzaga high in this next draft where you basically get rid of Ben, you get a draft pick and John Wall's brutal contract where John Wall can at least keep you in that competitive mode, but you get Suggs who could be the future of your backcourt, and he can play that type of role and help you out big time with the ball in his hands and whatnot and go in that direction. You also have Tyrese Maxey. I mean, there's a lot that you can do but you're in a really awkward spot because here's another hypothetical that it puts you in this awkward spot. But you got to remember, Ben like this, you're not a championship caliber team. So you're a second round exit team with Ben Simmons. That's reality. If you were to move him for a CJ McCollum, and then you went Maxey, McCollum, Seth, which would be a brutal tandem defensively, Tobias and Joel, what are you, a second round team? Are you a second-round playoff team, a competitive second-round playoff team? That might be what you are, but you're that with Ben. So to think like, oh, you're not getting any better, well, you're not good with Ben. You're not good with Ben, and nothing is going to change. The mindset of, oh, this is going to change. It's like, no, it's not. How crazy are you? The caller mentioned Jimmy Butler. How is it looking now? Jimmy Butler has his own problems in Miami as well. This team with Jimmy Butler is still not a completed product. The Tobias thing, like we're talking about Ben. That's why for everyone who says we need to move on from Tobias and keep Ben Simmons. No. It all stems from 2-5. 2-5 is the problem. I'll keep Tobias any day of the week on this contract to get rid of Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons is the problem, not swapping Jimmy Butler for Tobias Harris. That's not what it is. Jimmy Butler failing in Toronto in half-court sets, playing isolation ball, trying to get separation, all because 2-5, Mr. Dunker Spot, nobody offensively, not an option whatsoever, Mr. 2-5. That's what caused that to be more of the problem than anything else. So Tobias versus Jimmy Butler, this and that is what it is. That's irrelevant to me. The Ben Simmons thing, that's what's not irrelevant. And I don't want him here in the city anymore. It's over and done with. And it's not running a star out of town. Philly does this all the time. Did you watch? Have you watched his career? We're in year 5. We're going to be entering another season. He doesn't shoot. He hasn't grown. He's done nothing to his game to the point where he single-handedly costed you a playoff series again. And I'm running him out of town? No. It's not his poor play. It's not his lack of growth and awareness as a basketball player. It's me? Get the fuck out of here. Let's do one more hotline call.
What's going on, Brodes? Major disappointment in this team based on the expectations we had this season. Priority number 1 needs to be trading Ben in the offseason. I mean, based on how he played this postseason, it's clear that we're just never going to win a championship with this guy. I mean, he's drove me up a wall this whole postseason, and I'm done with him.
I agree with you. And, there's this... for the Ben Simmons support group, because they are still out there, which is crazy. We're too reactionary. This is too knee-jerk. It really isn't. This is not a knee-jerk reaction. There's a big enough sample size. We're not judging this off of 4 games. Like, you think we're looking at 4 games and saying Ben Simmons is awful? This is the same problem from, 4 years ago? 4 years ago in a playoff series against Boston, and we're talking about the same thing? Yet it's too reactionary? That's what's bonkers to me. That's what makes me just get destroyed inside. Now, before my power goes out or anything wild happens, I'm going to end this here. So I'm going to end this here. It's attempt 3. I can't believe we got through it. I want to thank everybody so much for listening to this episode of Sports Talk with Brodes. Crazy. It really is. But Ben Simmons, sayonara. I don't want to see you in Philadelphia ever again in a Sixers uniform. I can't do it anymore, and it's the right way to feel because he does not work in playoff basketball. Transition ball is what he does well, and transition ball is not a factor in playoff basketball down the stretch. And if you're going to be a point guard, you need to be able to create. You need to be able to come off a screen. You need to be able to put pressure on the defense so your 7'2" man doesn't have to dribble into the area that he needs to get to and then turn the ball over. Like it all is 2-5. See, like Clint Capella blows. He's not a good basketball player. Trae Young helps out Clint Capella and makes him look not as bad. A point guard can help Joel Embiid get into certain spots on the floor by being a threat with the ball in his hands, and that opens up the game for Joel even more. He'd be even more of an MVP caliber guy with that help, and he just doesn't have that, and that's why 8 turnovers happens. And, I mean, that's probably the most obvious thing in the world to witness, which blows my mind that some can't see it. All right, everyone, thank you so much, and I will see you next time.